The Astonishing Life of Octavian Nothing, Traitor to the Nation, Volume 1, The Pox Party, is a work of historical fiction with the longest title ever. As you may have guessed, the main character's name is Octavian, and he does lead a rather remarkable life. Octavian's pregnant mother is purchased at a slave auction in Boston in 1775 by the wealthy head of the Novangelian College of Lucidity, Mr. Gitney, or as he prefers to be called, 03-01. When Octavian is born, he becomes the subject of a study by the college's many intellectuals, who are trying to determine if it is possible to educate Africans. Octavian is sheltered from the outside world and given a classical education. He studies Latin, ancient Greek literature, philosophy, and also becomes an accomplished violinist. He is also subject to some rather strange experiments. For example, everything he eats and excretes is weighed and recorded. In addition, he regularly witnesses the torture of animals and occasionally other humans in the name of science. When Octavian is 8 years old, a house slave named Bono helps him to become aware of his situation. From this point on, Octavian recognizes that he is a slave, a well-dressed slave, a well-educated slave, but a slave nonetheless. When the Novangelian College of Lucidity begins to lose funding, it is taken over by Mr. Sharp, a hard-nosed, practical man who sees a majority of the experiments performed in the house as ridiculous folly. He makes a few changes to Octavian's education. He is no longer allowed to practice the arts or read narratives. In addition, Octavian and his mother are required to earn their keep by working in the house. Outside the college, tensions are building and America is on the brink of war with Britain. There are rumors of slave rebellion, and so Mr. Sharp decides that this is the perfect time to test how Africans respond to the smallpox vaccine. Octavian survives the vaccine, but his mother succumbs to the illness, and he witnesses her dissection. From this point on, the story is told from the perspectives of the people who come in contact with Octavian. He escapes from the college and runs into the woods, obviously distraught at having witnessed the death and disembowelment of his mother for science. Eventually, he takes up with some patriots and joins in the burgeoning cause for colonial independence from Great Britain. Unfortunately, the head of the College of Lucidity tracks him down and has him brought back to the college. He shackles Octavian in the basement with a bit in his mouth and an iron mask over his head. All seems lost until his old tutor, Dr. Trefusis, plans his and Octavian's escape into Boston, which is being run by the Brits. Octavian hopes to land a job playing violin in the British orchestra, and so ends Volume 1 of Octavian's story. How is Octavian a traitor to the nation, as the title of this book suggests? I have no idea. Absolutely nothing has happened in the story as of yet which makes him a traitor. Hopefully that information is provided in Volume 2. Let's discuss the tone and writing style employed in the book because it is so strange. The first half of the book is narrated by Octavian, a much older Octavian, and the tone is somewhat distant, analytical, and very serious. His accounts are also very wordy. Get ready to hear a ton of allusions to ancient Greek mythology. This is simply the author's way of proving the quality of Octavian's education. He speaks as a well-educated man of that period would. After the death of his mother, Octavian's voice disappears altogether, though, and the story continues with legal documents and accounts from other characters. As he relates the story of his childhood, Octavian is decidedly unemotional in his account. Instead of stating that he cried, he describes the event as a scientist might. Furthermore, Octavian clearly portrays the horrors of his young life without eliciting much emotion from the reader. The lack of emotional language surrounding horrific events makes this book at times very difficult to read. Would I recommend this book? Absolutely. If you're a masochist, if you love verbose, technical descriptions of terrible, terrible things, read this book. If you hate humor and levity, this is the book for you. If you want a heartbreaking story that reads like an ancient instruction manual, you won't be able to put this book down. If you have a word quota to meet, this book will gladly give you 20 words for the price of one. However, if you're like me, you will probably find this book so exhausting that upon completing it, you will take a very long nap, during which you will experience some extremely disturbing nightmares.
Created using Powtoon.